The rangers warned me not to look at the man in my peripheral vision. I'm a photographer, so I tried to take his picture instead. I'm a wildlife photographer. It's a career built on patience, stillness, and the ability to become just another silent, uninteresting part of the landscape. I've spent weeks at a time utterly alone in the vast remote corners of national forests. My only companions were the whispers of the wind and the patient clicking of my camera's shutter. I've waited 14 hours in a cramped blind, motionless just for a 3-second glimpse of a reclusive pine marten. That's how I thrive on that solitude, and how I love the deep, profound quiet of the wild. I always thought it's where I feel most myself, at least it used to be. Now the silence is the most terrifying thing I know because it's never truly silent, and the solitude is a lie because I am never, ever, truly alone. This all started 3 months ago. I was on a long-term project in a massive, sparsely populated national forest. It's a primeval sort of place, full of ancient Douglas firs that tower like cathedral spires, their tops lost in a perpetual mist. My goal was to capture a portfolio of the elusive Cascade red fox, a beautiful but notoriously shy creature. For the first few weeks, it was business as usual. I'd rise before dawn, hike miles into the backcountry, and set up, waiting for the forest to offer up its secrets. One evening, I got the shot I'd been dreaming of, a magnificent male fox. The color of its coat was of a dying fire, paused in a sun-dappled clearing, its head cocked, listening. The light was perfect, the composition was something else. I rattled off a dozen frames, my heart soaring with that pure, electric thrill that only photographers know. Back at my base camp that night, I eagerly loaded the photos onto my laptop. I scrolled through, and there it was. The money shot. The fox was perfectly in focus, its eyes were sharp and intelligent. The background was a beautiful, soft bouquet of green and gold. It was perfect, except for the smudge. In the upper right-hand corner of the frame, there was a strange, vertical blur of white light. It was out of focus, just an artifact, but it was annoying. It looked like a lens flare, but the sun was behind me. It made no sense. I checked the other frames. It was there in the exact same spot in every single one. A persistent, ghostly slash against the otherwise perfect image. I sighed, chalking it up to some weird internal reflection in my lens, and made a mental note to clean all my gear thoroughly. A week later, I was photographing a herd of elk by a river at dawn. Again, a perfect morning. The mist was rising off the water, the great animals were silhouetted against the nascent light. It was a primordial, beautiful scene. I took hundreds of photos. And when I reviewed them later, the smudge was there. Different location, different time of day, different lens, but the same vertical, out-of-focus slash of white light, always in the upper periphery of the frame. Now, I was more than annoyed. I was obsessed. I thought to myself that it was a consistent technical problem, a something I needed to solve. Was it a scratch on my camera's sensor? A flaw in the shutter mechanism? I spent 2 full days troubleshooting, running diagnostics, taking test shots of blank surfaces. I found nothing. My gear was, by all accounts, in perfect working order. The only way to solve it was to recreate the conditions. I went back to the clearing where I'd photographed the fox. I set up my camera on a tripod in the exact same spot, at the exact same time of day. I framed the shot identically, and then I waited. My goal was to see the flare appear through the viewfinder before I took the picture. I sat there for hours, still as a stone, my eye pressed to the camera. The sun dappled the clearing. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves. The forest was quiet, but as the afternoon wore on, a new feeling began to creep in. A low-grade primal hum of anxiety. It was the feeling of being watched. It's a sensation every creature in the wild knows. A prickling at the back of your neck. A sudden cold awareness that you are no longer just an observer, but are also the observed. I slowly, carefully scanned the tree line, my eyes searching for the glint of an eye, the twitch of an ear. I saw nothing, but the feeling grew stronger. It was coming from my side, from the very edge of my vision. I kept my head perfectly still, my breathing slow and even, but my eyes darted to the right, and I saw it, for just a fraction of a second. It was a tall, wavering shape, like a column of heat haze. It was the shape of a man, long and thin, and it was hanging upside down from a thick, high branch of a fir tree, its form indistinct and shimmering. The moment my brain registered the impossible image, I snapped my head to look directly at it. And there was nothing there, just the tree branch empty against the sky. The forest was still. The feeling of being watched was gone. I sat there, my heart hammering against my ribs, my mouth dry. I told myself I was overtired, that the solitude was getting to me. I was seeing things. It was a trick of the light, a figment of a sleep-deprived imagination. I packed up my gear, unnerved, and hiked back to my truck. I needed a break. I needed to see other people. I drove to the nearest ranger station, a rustic little cabin that served as the park's administrative hub. There were 2 rangers on duty, an older, grizzled man with a kind, weary face, and a younger woman. I made some small talk, bought a new map I didn't need, and then, trying to sound casual, I asked my question. "Hey, this is going to sound weird," I started, "but have you guys ever seen strange things out in the deep woods, like tricks of the light?" The older ranger looked up from his paperwork. He and the younger ranger exchanged a look. It was a brief, knowing glance, but it was enough. "What kind of tricks of the light are we talking about?" he asked, his voice a low, calm rumble. I felt like an idiot, but I pressed on. "Like a shape. A tall, shimmering shape. Of a man. Hanging upside down from a tree. You only see it out of the corner of your eye." The younger ranger's friendly expression tightened. The older just sighed, a long, tired sound, and leaned back in his chair. "The upside-down man," he said. And it wasn't a question. "Yeah, we've seen him. Most of the folks who spend enough time out here have." A wave of cold relief, immediately followed by a wave of colder dread, washed over me. I wasn't crazy, but that meant the thing was real. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Don't know," he said, shaking his head. "Don't want to know. It's just a feature of the landscape, I guess. A weird local phenomenon, like a magnetic anomaly or a patch of strange fog. But what does it do?" "Nothing," he said, leaning forward and fixing me with a serious paternal gaze. "It does absolutely nothing. As long as you do nothing, too. That's the one and only rule, son. You see him in the corner of your eye, you keep looking straight ahead, you feel him watching you, you pretend you don't, you do not acknowledge him, you do not engage with him, and you sure as hell don't go looking for him. He's a thing you're only supposed to see by accident. You start making it on purpose, and that's when you get into trouble." "Trouble?" I asked. "What kind of trouble?" "We don't know," the younger ranger chimed in, her voice tense. "No one's ever been stupid enough to find out. It's just common knowledge. A professional courtesy among those of us who work out here. You leave him alone, and he leaves you alone." I left the ranger station with my mind reeling. Their warning was stark and absolute. But they had also given me something else. A validation. And a name. The Upside-Down Man. And the smudge in my photos. It was a vertical shape of light. A shape like a man. Hanging. It was him. My camera could see him, even when I couldn't. And that's where I made my mistake. My fatal, arrogant mistake. I'm a photographer. My entire life, my entire purpose, is to see things and to capture them. To be told that there was something out there, a real, observable phenomenon that I was supposed to ignore. It was anathema to me. It was an irresistible challenge. And the ranger's warning was just a dare. I went back into the woods, but this time I was hunting for him. My entire methodology changed. I'd find a spot and wait, not for an animal to appear, but for that familiar, prickling sensation on my skin. The moment I felt it, I wouldn't move my head. I'd keep my eyes locked forward, but I'd raise my camera, aiming the lens not at what I was looking at, but at the periphery. At the space where I felt he was. And I'd shoot. The first photos were chilling. The vertical smudge just grew. It was a brilliant, searing slash of overexposed white light, sharp and defined. It looked like a wound in the fabric of the photograph, a tear through which a sterile, featureless light was pouring. And with every photo I took, the slash grew wider, brighter, more aggressive. It was like I was annoying it, and it was screaming back at me through my own camera. I became possessed by it. I stopped eating properly. I barely slept. I was fueled by a manic obsessive energy. I filled memory card after memory card with these impossible images. The creature was always there, just at the edge of my sight, a shimmering, wavering promise. And I kept shooting, trying to get a clearer image, trying to resolve that blinding white light into a discernible form. Then my camera died. I was in a deep, mossy canyon. The feeling of being watched was a palpable, heavy pressure on my right side. I raised my camera, aimed it into the periphery, and pressed the shutter. The resulting image on the small LCD screen was pure, blinding white. A completely blank frame. I tried again. White. I aimed it at my own feet. White. He had broken it, or more accurately, he had filled it. My camera could now only see the blinding, featureless light of his presence. It was useless. Any sane person would have stopped then. They would have taken the ranger's warning to heart and gotten the hell out of there. But I wasn't sane anymore. My obsession had burned through my reason. The loss of my camera just felt like a challenge, and now I would have to use my own eyes. I continued the hunt. I would walk through the woods until I felt the familiar presence. Then I would stop and I would try to see him. I'd keep my head pointed forward, but I'd strain my eyes to the side, trying to resolve the shimmering, wavering shape in my peripheral vision. I'd try to hold it, to focus on it, to force it into clarity. And that's when the smudge moved from my photos to my own vision. It started as a small, barely noticeable floater in the corner of my right eye, a tiny, translucent blur. I assumed it was an eye strain, but it didn't go away, and every time I went on one of my hunts, every time I tried to force my eyes to see the creature directly, the smudge would get a little bigger, a little more opaque. It was turning from a translucent blur into a patch of milky white fog. I was in the woods, trying to focus on the shimmering shape hanging from a distant branch. And as I strained, I saw the white fog in my own eye physically expand, spreading like a drop of milk in water. And I finally understood. With a clarity so profound and so terrifying it felt like a physical blow, I understood what was happening. It was that he couldn't be seen directly. His very nature was to exist at the edge of perception. And by trying to force him into the center, by trying to capture him, first with my camera and then with my own eyes, I was violating the fundamental rule of his existence, and he was fighting back. He was erasing the part of my vision that I was using to see him. He was a blind spot, a living, predatory blind spot, and he was growing, feeding on my sight. The panic that hit me was unlike anything I have ever known. It was the terror of a man realizing the weapon he has been firing is powered by his own blood. I was deep in a remote wilderness, and I was going blind. I ran. It was a clumsy, stumbling, panicked flight. I tripped over roots I couldn't see properly, crashed through branches that seemed to come out of nowhere. The white fog in the corner of my eye seemed to pulse and swirl with every frantic beat of my heart. I finally made it back to my truck, my body bruised and scratched, my mind a screaming wreck. I drove out of that forest, and I have not been back. That was a month ago. The white patch in my vision hasn't gone away. I've seen 3 different ophthalmologists and a neurologist. They've run every test imaginable. My eyes, they tell me, are perfectly healthy. There is absolutely nothing physically wrong with them. They think I'm having a complex psychological episode brought on by stress and solitude. I knew it wouldn't be that easy. I thought the connection was through the photos. I thought they were the anchor. So last week, I built a bonfire in my backyard. I took every memory card, every hard drive, every single print I had made of the white slashes, and I burned them. I watched until they were nothing but a pile of melted plastic and gray ash. I felt a sense of relief, exorcism if I may say. It didn't work. He's not just in the forest anymore. He followed me home. He's here with me now, as I type this. Not in the room, not in the house. He's in the corner of my eye. I'll be sitting here, on my couch, and I'll get that old, familiar, prickling sensation. And I'll know. If I let my focus soften, I can see him. A tall, wavering, upside-down shape, shimmering at the very edge of my vision. Sometimes he's in the corner of the room. Sometimes, when I'm outside, he's hanging from a telephone pole. He's always there, a silent, constant companion. The Rangers were right. The only rule is to ignore him, and now, that is my life. I live in a state of constant, vigilant denial. I can never turn my head too quickly. I can never let my eyes wander. I have to consciously, actively, not see the thing that is always there. Because I know that if I try to look at him, if I give in to that primal urge to face the thing that is watching me, the white fog in my eye will grow, and there's not much of my vision left to lose. So this is my warning. If you ever find yourself in the deep, quiet places of the world, and you feel a prickling at the back of your neck, and you see something impossible just at the edge of your sight, for the love of God, pretend you didn't. Look away. Keep looking straight ahead. Some things aren't meant to be seen, and they will take everything from you to make sure you can't. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next crazy Reddit story.